I read 7 books in the month of February, some very popular and some not, and I'm gonna tell you if they are worth the read or not. One of my favorite reads from this month, I have a actual deep-rooted attachment. Loved this so much more than I ever anticipated. So in the month of February, I read 7 total books, 2,640 pages. 2 of those books were audiobooks and 1 of them was on my Kindle, leaving the other 4 to be paperbacks. So, oh wait, that doesn't make sense. 1, 2, 3, 4. Nope, that does make sense. That does make sense. Anyways, so that's a little breakdown of kind of a little bit more of the statistics. I use the app Bookly. I get questions about this all the time because in my reading vlogs, I'm always showing this, and I just get questions on my Instagram literally everywhere what this app is. It's called Bookly. After you add 10 books, you do have to pay for it monthly, but I literally love it so much. I think it is so worth it. It's not too expensive. This is not sponsored, but I really hope one day they do sponsor me because I swear I am their biggest fan. But anyways, with that being said, we're gonna get right into the 7 books I read. First book I read in February was on my Kindle, and it is Playmaker by Sierra Hill. This is in the Moo You series, which is a series by a bunch of different authors, and it is a series solely based on hockey romances, and each book kind of follows a different hockey player and like their story. This is the 2nd book I've read in the series, though it is technically the 9th one in the series, but you don't really have to read them in order because they all follow different people. But I actually really enjoyed this book. Where's my iPad? Having that would actually be nice. Hold on. Okay, secured the iPad. If you guys don't know, I have a book journal on my iPad that I make on Procreate, so it'll just be nice to reference back to my pages of each book I read. The premise of this book is not only is he a hockey player, she is too, which I thought that was a really fun aspect of it because you were getting the aspect of women's sports just isn't as hyped up as men's sports, and kind of getting her wanting to really do something with hockey and not having a very good chance of it happening, and him having this great opportunity and not really sure if he wants to take it. And I thought that the storyline was really fun, and I enjoyed the romance of this a lot. I honestly, throughout this whole book, felt the connection and the pull between their 2 main characters, and how they first met was low-key kind of iconic, and I hate that I just said that, but there's no other way to put it. Both of the books I have read in the series have been super quick, easy reads. They've both been under 300 pages, so they're really easy, quick books to get through. If you're maybe feeling a little slumpy, they're just gonna be pretty fast-paced and, again, short. I really did enjoy it, and I honestly would recommend this series. I mean, I know I've only read 2 in the series, and they are all written by different authors, but the 2 I have read, I have absolutely loved, so highly recommend. I ended up giving this book a 4 out of 5 stars, which is a pretty good rating. Like, that is actually a really good rating, so highly recommend. Moving on, the next book I read this month is one that was very loved, been marked up quite a bit, and is a book I actually read in a reading vlog. The next 3 I did read in a reading vlog. This is definitely one of my favorite reads from this month. It was so good, and that is The Hawthorne Legacy by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This is the 2nd in the Inheritance Game trilogy. I absolutely loved this. So this was a buddy read with my friend Noor, who is instantly booked on Bookstagram, and oh my god, was this so good. Jennifer Lynn Barnes' writing is so captivating, so fast-paced, and since I already had a relationship with these characters and knew what was going on in this universe and in this story, jumping into this, even though I read the Inheritance Games, I think back in like September or something, was so easy, but I fell so in love and fell completely headfirst in this. I was completely enthralled into the story. I actually cannot explain to you the amount of like visceral reactions I was having while reading this book. I cried so many times. I was laughing, I was angry, literally every emotion you can possibly think of I was having while reading this. Legitimately, like, have not enough words to describe truly how much I loved this. Oh, it was just so good. Ugh. I'm just thinking about this book. It was just something else. I literally don't even know what else to say. I just loved it so much. I cannot wait to read the final gambit, which you'll have to see if that ends up being on my March TBR, which that's coming. I don't know if that's out before this or not, but regardless, you'll have to see if that made it onto my TBR, because as you guys know, my TBR is being picked by you guys in your DMs. So anyways, in my book journal, I have that I rated this a 4.75 out of 5 stars, but honestly, that just doesn't feel right anymore. I think I'm gonna have to up this up to 5 stars because now that it's been a few weeks since I finished this, I feel like I did give it a 5 star in my brain. I really thought I did until I looked at my book journal and saw that it said 4.75. So we're gonna go with a 5 star. Please read the series. It's so good. Worth the hype. Just had to throw that out there. The next book I read, which was an audiobook that I listened to on Audible, was Talking as Fast as I Can by Lauren Graham. This is her memoir that takes you through her life before acting, how she got to where she was, her time filming Gilmore Girls, Girls and filming Gilmore Girls: A Year in the Life. And let me just say, if you are new here or maybe you just don't know, Gilmore Girls is my favorite show ever, and it has been since I was a freshman in high school, which was almost a decade ago. Don't want to talk about it. This show means so much to me on such a actual deep level. It's insane. So reading this made me so emotional because hearing that she loved filming the show as much as we love watching it just made me so happy. And like hearing her narrate this, because she does narrate it herself, which let me just say was a huge pro. And if you have been wanting to read this, I would highly recommend listening to it because hearing her narrate it was so much better than reading it myself. I wholeheartedly just feel like she is Lorelai, like to her core. Like whether Dan and Amy knew it at the time, like they wrote that role specifically for her. I don't think anyone else would have been able to play Lorelai the way she did because she just seems like Lorelai to her literal core. There was one particular line that was pretty much in the beginning of the book where she basically was like, I wondered if it would feel the same going back to Stars Hollow after all this time and yada yada yada. Spoiler alert, it was. And I instantly started sobbing, like instantly started sobbing because I'm getting emotional now. I know that seems so silly to some people. Like some people are probably like, you're really getting emotional over someone who acted in your favorite TV show, but like, yes, I have a actual deep rooted attachment to this TV show. There is not a single day in my life that I do not watch or listen to the show. And that sounds like an exaggeration, but it's not. I listen to it every night to go to sleep. So I know a lot of people do not rate memoirs, which is totally valid, but I feel like it would be a lie to sit here and say that I don't have a rating for this, because if I did rate this, it would be infinity, 6 stars, 5 stars, whatever you want to call it. Like this was incredible and I would highly recommend. Next book was my book club book of the month, which if you don't know, I do have a book club on Fable. It's free and the link is always down below, so if you want to join it, you can. Our book club book for March is Dance of Thieves by Mary E. Pearson, so if you haven't read that and you want to, that's the perfect opportunity. Come join my book club. Anyways, my book club book of February was The Fine Print by Lauren Asher. I was very excited going into this because I have had this series on my physical TBR for a really long time. This series is also very hyped up, and also these are some of my favorite covers that I own. Something about the covers of this whole series really scratches an itch in my brain. I don't know why. I really did enjoy reading this. I thought that the backdrop of it being Dreamland, which is kind of like Disneyland, and we're kind of in this amusement park setting, and I just thought it was a really fun concept, and I thought it was a really fun vibe. Like it just gave me good happy vibes, if that makes sense. And I did really enjoy the couple in this book. I thought it was a really sweet romance, though I did feel like at times things kind of felt very repetitive, especially when we're in Rowan's perspective, which he is the main male character in this. I felt like every time we were in his brain, like kind of getting his inner dialogue, it felt like it was always the same like 3 sentences about why he is the way he is, and I just felt like it was so repetitive and like to the point where I just don't need you to keep reiterating this, like I know, you know? Does that make sense? I don't know if that makes sense, but I did really enjoy it. I did just have a few nitpicky things that I felt were not great about it. I am really excited to continue the series because the little glimpses I was getting of Cal in this book, I was eating up those little crumbs we were getting. Let me tell you, like they were literal crumbs and I was eating them up like crazy, and I can't wait to read his book. I'm 99.999% sure his book is Final Offer, which is the last in the series. But yeah, I'm excited to finish the series, and I ended up giving this one a 3.5 out of 5 stars, which is still a very good rating, and I still would recommend this to people. It wasn't a favorite. That's pretty much it. And the next book I read is actually the first ever dark romance I have ever read, and I was very skeptical going into this that I wasn't gonna like it because I am very much a Hallmark movie person. I love Hallmark movies. I love the cheesiness and the sappiness and just the sweetness of it all. So I really did not think I was going to like this because that is not what this is, and that is Hooked by Emily McIntyre. Now listen, I know there is going to be a lot worse dark romances than this one, but it was my first dark romance, okay? We're just gonna leave it at that, and it still is a dark romance. This is kind of like a fairy tale retelling. We have Hook, Peter, Wendy, just kind of those characters portrayed in like a modern day kind of society, and it's a dark romance, so you feel the vibe. I actually enjoyed this way more than I thought I would. I was very pleasantly surprised. Now I will say there was certain things that were said that made me very uncomfortable, that I was not vibing with, that I was like, ew, please let's not. But like he was such a gentleman to her deeper. I don't even know, like I actually literally enjoyed this way more than I thought I would, and I would 100% continue the series. If you've never read a dark romance and you've been kind of curious about it, I would say start with this. I feel like this was a really good way for me to dip my toe into dark romance because it didn't feel too much, like too heavy of a dark romance like I know some of them can be. It was just enough to kind of dip my toe in and get the vibe, and I did really enjoy it, and I really enjoyed the romance in this. Biggest surprise to me of my reading career so far is actually liking this. I ended up giving this a 4 out of 5 stars, which again, very good rating. That is all for that one. Next book was another audiobook I listened to. Now I've had this on my physical TBR for a while, so when I saw it was an Audible original and it was on Audible for free, I was so excited and I decided to listen to it because one of my biggest goals for this year is to really knock down my physical TBR as much as humanly possible. And I vividly remember when buying this book that I thought that the premise of this book sounded so fun, and that is The Stand-In by Lily Chu. This book is literally about this girl named Gracie, and she ends up getting fired, and then she ends up running into a famous actress that they just so happen to look very similar, and this actress basically asks her to play her double to go to like public events so that she can focus on getting better. That's kind of the premise of this book. Legitimately loved this so much more than I ever anticipated. This was so good. This was so much deeper than a romance to me. I feel like I don't know if I would call this a romance book so much as a fiction that has romance in it. This felt very character driven about our main character Gracie, but there was so much depth to this book that I was not expecting. The mental health awareness in this book and the portrayal of mental health in this book was so good, and really put a light on how important it is to prioritize your mental health and take it seriously when you feel like you are falling into a dark place. I also loved that Gracie was half white, half Chinese, and so you really got some of her inner dialogue and just kind of saw how being mixed affects her in her day-to-day life and how she feels about herself, and how certain comments that maybe wasn't meant in a certain type of way actually made her feel some type of way. And I really enjoyed that aspect of it because if you don't know, which a lot of you probably don't, but I am married to a black man and we do have a son who is obviously mixed because I am white and he is black. So I really loved seeing that aspect of it because that is inevitably something that my son is going to go through, being a mixed kid, and I thought that just added so much more depth to this book. There was also just something that like I don't even know how I wasn't expecting it, but I wasn't expecting it at all, and it had me absolutely floored. There's literally part of my day in the life as a stay-at-home mom. You see me listening to this and I got my reaction to it on video, not even knowing it was gonna happen, but it had me floored. Absolutely, like I'm not even kidding, absolutely floored. And the romance of this was so good. It was so sweet. Like I genuinely loved the romance in this so much, and it started as little crumbs and just kind of snowballed to getting more and more. But even from the first tiny little crumb, you could feel the connection, you could feel the chemistry, and you could feel just the pull between the two of them, and it was just so good. I literally could probably sit here and actually talk about this for so long because I loved it so much, and if that doesn't tell you what I rated it, I will tell you this is a 5-star. I was really debating with myself, could I rate this a 5-star because I listened to it, but then I came to the conclusion that I wanted to rate it a 5-star so bad, but wasn't sure if I was like allowed to because I listened to it, and that did not make any logical sense. So this is a 5-star, so good. And the last book I read in February was my book club book with my sister Tamiko and my other sister's wife Maria. We have a little book club of just us 3, and it was my month to pick the book. Finally, we started our book club in December, so this was my first time picking the book, and I picked Icebreaker by Hannah Grace, which is a hockey figure skating romance. And I, again, love romance, love Hallmark movies and such, but I also have been in such a hockey romance kick. Like I read so many hockey romances in January. They have crack in them, I'm convinced. They're so good. But I ended up picking this one, and I really enjoyed this book. And I was a little nervous going into it because I kept hearing that there was like a lot of smut in this, which I will say there was, but I also felt like I was expecting more smut than there was in this, just based on how much people were saying there was a lot in it, if that makes sense. But then again, I have read some books that have like a lot, but I really enjoyed this. I really enjoyed the romance. I enjoyed just seeing them like as college students, who they are as individuals, and just kind of how they kind of worked together. The plot of this book was really fun. I enjoyed the twists and turns we went on, and really just enjoyed seeing the hockey side and the figure skating side of this because we really get to see a lot of that, and I thought that was so fun. I also loved how in this book they really make it clear that therapy is good, it's okay, communication communication is so important. Being able to express your feelings is so important. That was such a big part of this book and of Anastasia or Stassi's kind of being and who she is, and you kind of find out why as time goes on, but it was just so good. Like, I actually really enjoyed it. I was not expecting, like, I guess the plot line to actually be so fun and enjoyable, because I kept hearing it was just so much sex. I was expecting this to basically just be sex, but it was so much more than that, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I would honestly highly recommend this. Like, this is hyped up, and I do believe it is hyped up for a reason. I ended up giving this a 4.5 out of 5 stars. Really good rating. Really enjoyed it, and highly would recommend. So with that being said, those are the 7 books I read in February, and if I would recommend them or not. I basically would recommend all of these. I had a pretty good reading month in February. If you read any of these, let me know what you think. If you have read any of them, let me know down below what you did think already. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you are not already, because we have a lot of fun over here and we want you to join the fun. And with that being said, I love you guys so much, and I will see you in the next one. Peace. Ugh. That took way longer than it should. 400. What? That's not right. That's not right. Literally every emotion you can I need to tell you twice. What is up? 31-day reading streak. That doesn't make sense. Sierra Hill. Oh my god, there's something in my eyeball. Holy crap, there's something. Oh, I see it. Oh no, I can't cry. It'll mess up the makeup. Very much. Where was I going with that? Does that make sense? That actually doesn't make any sense. Fairly at the beginning, that doesn't make sense. It made me so emotional. So that's the next book. Such a special place in my heart, that one. Cal's book, is that who I was like? See, it's the way that I already forgot. Why'd I say career like I make money off reading? I make $100 per book I read. The mental hair. What? The mental hair. Like, no, what? Girl. And the portrayal. Awareness, I guess, and that's not the right word. That was like such a heavy part, not heavy. So with that, oh.